Welcome to Wildcat Science with Mrs. Haugo. This is Advanced Science we are in our water unit, and this is Why is Water the Basis of Life, Part 3. So previously on Part 2 we were talking about buffer solutions and how they resist changes in pH, and that organisms are sensitive to changes in pH, and that buffers are solutions in water, and that basically all the chemical reactions in an organism happen in water, and organisms are mostly water. And we were also talking about proteins, which are necessary for life and only work in a specific ranges of pHs, and we talked about that's because they will denature and they can't do their job and then you die, and that's bad. So now let's cut to the chase. How do organisms prevent changes in pH and stay alive? So let's look at some examples of how organisms do this. So please write this down. Example 1, stomach digestive juices have a pH of 2. And so is that acidic or basic? And the enzymes in the small intestine work in basic conditions. And a question for you is, what on the pH range, what would be a basic pH? And the enzymes in the small intestine break down nutrients. And so if the enzymes don't work, you don't get nutrients, and then if you don't get nutrients, you die. So if you took human biology, you'll know that you have basically all of the chemical digestion of your food occurs in the small intestine, and that like all the absorption of the nutrients occurs in your small intestine. So this needs to happen. And also we know that the stomach has these little mucus production cells, so that those cells are kind of like saved from being just eaten away by the stomach acid. That's not the case in the small intestine. So what do we do when we have this super acidic food paste coming in so that our small intestines don't dissolve and just a lot of bad things happen? Well, the pancreas makes a lot of sodium bicarbonate, which is NaHCO3, and it is basic, it's a base, and it dumps that into the small intestine, and then that's going to neutralize your stomach acid. Because we know, or you will know, that an acid and a base make a salt and water, and that is neutralized. So you have all this acidic digested food coming in from the stomach, and then it goes into the small intestine, but luckily your pancreas, which has a little duct to dump off all of its sodium bicarbonate in there so that the acid and the base can react and it neutralizes and everything's okay. So that is one way that organisms prevent changes in pH and get the nutrients they need and don't die. Another way is blood buffers. All right, so you have a pH your blood has a pH of between 7.35 and 7.45. It is slightly more basic than neutral. If your blood pH goes below that, if it becomes a little bit too acidic, you die. So like 7.2, you're probably dead. I would have to look that up for sure. I'm not a medical professional, but I think you would be in big trouble. What do we do about that? Blood buffers. So we know that buffers are substances that resist changes in pH. So please write this down. Luckily, blood has buffers that resist pH changes when acids and bases are added. So buffers accept hydrogen ions, and we know that if we have an excess of hydrogen ions, that makes something acidic. So buffers will accept hydrogen ions from solution when they are in excess, and the buffer will also donate hydrogen ions to the solution when it's needed. So let's take a quick look at what would happen then. So if our solution is basic, it has a bunch of hydroxide ions, and if you donate a hydrogen ion, you get neutral water. And if our solution is acidic, it has a bunch of hydronium ions, and then if you are able to take away one of these, you just get neutral water. So buffers are great because they can go one way or the other, and they always stay pretty neutral. In your blood, the major buffer is carbonic acid or the bicarbonate ion. So please write that down, and then please write down this equation, and then let's talk about it. So you have H2CO3, which is carbonic acid, and that's in a reversible reaction with the bicarbonate ion, HCO3, -1, and a hydrogen ion, H+. So in response to a rise in pH, it will shift this way. So a rise in pH means it's more basic, which means we don't have enough hydrogen ions. So this carbonic acid will split up, and the buffer will donate hydrogen ions to neutralize the basic solution. And then it goes this way in response to a drop in pH. So a drop in pH means we have too many hydrogen ions. So the buffer is going to just gobble up a bunch of those hydrogen ions and store them in this molecule. So the carbonic acid bicarbonate ion is able to donate or accept hydrogen ions so that it stays neutral and your blood stays in the pH that it needs to, and you don't die. A fun fact is carbonic acid and the bicarbonate ion form when the CO2 that is in your lungs dissolves in the blood plasma, and that's where that comes from. Let's look at the pH scale. So we know that organisms are sensitive to changes in pH, and this 7 is neutral, and that is like pure water. If you get a little more acidic, you have milk, and this is kind of the normal range of stream water that aquatic animals can live in. And often this is the normal range of precipitation. If you get a little bit more acidic than that, you have acid rain, and fish and aquatic animals will start to die. So vinegar, it has a pH of about 3, lemon juice about 2.5, and battery acid is very acidic. And then if you go the other way and looking at things that are basic, well, baking soda and seawater is actually basic. Milk of magnesia is like it's an antacid you can take if you have an upset stomach. It's a like chalky liquid form. Ammonia, lye, these are all very basic. Bleach is also very basic. And I am hoping that we'll get a chance to do a pH or a titration lab, and we would do that in class. So now you should be able to answer the question, why is water the basis of life? In our next section, we're going to be looking at the life in our very own Kickapoo River and in the land surrounding it in the Kickapoo River watershed. I will see you then. Bye.